Now, serene Portugal braces for Trump tariff effect, and that's why I've called it riffing with Trump. See what I did there?
Yeah.
We're riffing,
Yeah.
and the country is riffing with this. You know, a lot of people are upset. When I say people, well, a lot of people are upset. Let's face it. Let's be honest about it. It's an interesting time for humanity again, and it's interesting to see the cultural responses. So here's Portugal.
I'm holding back at the moment. I'm wondering,
you could have fooled me, but anyway, go on.
No, I'm wondering if that's going to affect my business.
Oh yes, of course, a tariff on your digital service.
So if I wonder if when it's announced whether it will be backdated to the start of his presidency. So where I'm having Americans wanting to work with me, yes. I'm asking them to wait until the tariffs have been announced.
Is that
because
right?
I'll probably have to up my prices for the Americans.
Flipping heck, Donny.
Or do something.
Flipping heck.
It is what it is, isn't it?
PM concedes Trump's tariff tirades. Trump's tariff tirades.
That's a good alliteration. Is that you? Is that you that's written that?
Me,
that's
no.
Natasha Don.
This is Natasha Don.
It's like she's been to the Cole
write this.
It's as if she's been to the Cole Munson School of Writing. Alliteration. Yes, absolutely. That's the kind of thing you would do.
Let's see if we can do more of that as
okay, let's spot them.
Portugal is doing what it does best as US president. See, I love the start. We're doing what we do best. US President Donald Trump threatens the world with tariffs and the pulling of overseas aid. I think that's been pulled largely, hasn't it? Who doesn't like a large pulling first thing in the morning? Well, multiple countries and world leaders react in outrage. These are all quotes, aren't they? Portugal is reacting with serenity. One of this nation's greatest fallback words, along with tranquility.
I like that.
We know that from our personal experience, don't we, Mrs. Emma? You used to hear it a lot when we first got here. Tranquilo, calma.
Yes, thank you.
We used to get hot under the collar.
What I
You're coming in already.
Oh, sorry.
No, come on, carry on.
I actually think the being serene about it is the right way forwards, because when you're hot under the collar and when you've got your knickers in a twist, it's very difficult to make clear, rational next moves. It's very difficult to think about things calmly and to make a good decision. You're not playing with a full deck of common sense. And so
a full deck of common sense. I remember those.
And if Portugal is reacting with serenity, it's going to offer them a much greater flexibility in terms of their responses. How they choose to respond will be, I think, more graceful and eloquent.
Okay. Well, yes, which is unusual in today's world,
clearly,
isn't it?
And I think that's underrated, but thinking clearly is really important in these times, especially when the whole world thinks that nobody's thinking clearly or somebody's not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
Being the grown up in the room is to me that sounds
the grown up in the room.
Yeah, to me it sounds like they're being the grandparent who has seen things coming and seen things going.
Yeah, someone's got to be. You're right. Yeah, somebody needs to.
It's important to see the bigger picture, I think.
James, by the way, tariffs shouldn't affect your prices, only for companies registered in America. Now, James,
we'll see, because when I put my green tickets through, I have to say where the business came from.
Yes.
So I have to declare it, and I think that is done.
You
for
are
tax
supplying
reasons.
a service into the United States, and I thought
which
that's how
people
it will be working. Yeah.
Which there will be American people doing similar things that I do. Obviously, they're not me, and I'm not them. But
that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's to protect American businesses, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're not really a threat to them, are you? You're very individual in your. Anyway, we'll come back to that.
I don't think I'm a threat to America at all. The only thing that I'm a threat to is I might help people relax a bit more. The whole purpose of my business is to help people feel good about themselves.
Yes.
If anything, I'm good for their
that would
GDP.
Be good for national morale, possibly at the moment. And having said threat to America at least 3 times already.
Oh my God!
I'm guessing a CIA tape is started up somewhere, but no one's going to be listening. Nobody will be listening to it because they've all been fired, haven't they? Anyway, so,
who knows?
Who knows? Right. And I think you uttered the word "we'll see" or the phrase "we'll see." That's what this is all about. And a wise man once said, "We'll see." I think it was James.
Let's find out. Let's see.
James Campbell. I think James here has got a message for you. I sound like a psychic now, don't I?
Do you?
A psychic event.
Cool.
Right. All right. Portugal will not be spooked into saying anything untoward, nor will it be goaded into making counter threats.
Fantastic.
It's getting better and better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not well done, Natasha. Not so a number of other European leaders whose panties are certainly in the bunch, not Natasha's words, but mine, who are clearly smarting over the president's comments that Europe is an atrocity. Now, you shouldn't get upset about that, should you? You should just, I mean, you should just laugh with such.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a judgment. And
it's a point
and
of
there
view.
might
It's a point of
view, and there might be some points of view where that I mean, Europe's a big place. There will be some things that are atrocious, and there will be some things that are really good.
Yeah, but it's not an atrocity.
No, the whole place of Europe isn't an atrocity.
It's not an atrocity.
But I mean, one thing I do notice is, you can listen to different news outlets, and it's completely different.
Well, there's a thing. And I was thinking, when the way I'm seeing people respond on social media at the moment, it just feels so much like the pandemic.
Yeah, it does.
With people saying, well, you can unfriend me if you like. And, all these sorts of, those emotions are present again, aren't they?
And I understand that feels really real for people. People are feeling massive amounts of emotion. Some people are feeling betrayed. Some people are feeling
which is an atrocity.
Some people are feeling abandoned, but there are also equally loads of people actually feeling quite excited. So it's by no means like a flat statement that things are atrocious, because not everyone believes that.
Not everyone is having that experience. And for those who are,
and I think it's important to have compassion for people, no matter where they are in their journey.
Yes, and if I hope we learnt that in the pandemic time. We shall see again.
Yeah.
Reading between the lines, however, one can see that Mr. Trump's outrageous comments and cowboy-like behavior are already reaping rewards. His threats of 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico have seen both countries fall over themselves to try and address some of the president's concerns, agreeing to tighten border measures against the flow of migrants and the drug fentanyl. Fentanyl. It's pronounced fentanyl, isn't it? Fentanyl. And tariffs have thus been suspended for a month.
Yeah, I guess that's like, we'll see. Let's see how it goes.
China has not been so obliging, but what appears to be more, that appears to be more because Mr. Trump hasn't spoken to his pal Xi just yet. As the resident, he's my pal. As the resident went to press, the White House reported that he was due to. As for the EU, this is the important bit, isn't it? Portugal and the Europe. Well, the informal summit earlier this week saw the likes of France's President Macron on what is Macron, I think, as he's sometimes known in America, bristling with indignation, and leading figures all promising a firm response first thing in the morning and at other times of the day. But Portugal's representative was surprisingly calm. We have to look at these issues realistically. And I think Luis Montenegro, our PM here, is a lot like Marcelo in that way. We've got to look at these issues realistically. In recent years, Europe has been over-regulated and has perhaps had over-ambitious objectives in terms of having, I'm doing this voice for effect, but he might sound like this, perhaps has had over-ambitious objectives.
I imagine he'd have a kind of like shoulder, kind of like this kind of.
Yeah, comme ci, comme ça, which Macron does not appear to be saying at the moment.
No.
I don't know what a firm response in French is, but that is what Emmanuel is saying.
I've been slapped around the face by a French woman.
What, for saying firm response?
No. But like I've been shown a firm response in my 20s.
You've experienced it.
Yes. Right. I mean, I lived in France for 5 years, so
isn't it funny?
Yeah.
You see, again,
like when they're firm about something, they are firm about it.
It's all about points of view, isn't it?
Yes.
Because I dreamt of being slapped around the face by a French woman when I was a kid. You probably didn't, and
no,
it happened to you, not me.
Not.
Right.
And it wasn't done in a kind of
ooh la la.
It wasn't done in a kind of schoolboy fantasy style.
French maid slaps.
No, it was like this old campsite owner smacking me around the face.
I didn't dream of her slapping me around
the
face.
No, you wouldn't have done. Trust me.
Let's move on. So Europe has had over-ambitious objectives in terms of having rules similar to those of other trading blocs, punching above our weight possibly there, the EU. We don't have to be a Nobel Prize winner in economics to realise. And just in case you are a Nobel Prize winner in virology, meteorology, and now economics, as well as Middle Eastern affairs, you don't have to be one of those to realize that the increase in tariffs on products that contribute to price formation on the side of American industries will have an impact on price increases. He conceded, but Mr. Trump was elected based on the popular vote of the Americans, and therefore we must respect his positions. There we go. Portugal, rule of law, democracy. The PM's serenity stood out among the otherwise fevered reporting from Brussels. It also served to highlight the political differences within the bloc. Indeed, press reports from the Brussels summit did not mention the reactions of right-wing leaders like Maloney, Orban in Hungary. The impressions that the EU was smarting was notably one-sided.
I think that's a very good observation, because I'm pretty sure most publications at the moment will be talking about Europe's response, the EU's response, as if they're all in together. But one thing that I've noted over the last couple of years is that there are parts of Europe that don't feel quite the same as the rest of the EU, and of course they're smarting, because if Trump's changes to the way his government are organized, if like sacking a load of people or giving people a different option to work differently, like shape up or ship out kind of thing. If what he is suggesting works really beautifully, then I imagine a lot of people in Brussels could also be let go of. I mean, I think one of the things, obviously I'm not studying him or anything like that, but I've been speaking, I've spoken to clients that have received the kind of notifications that you're talking about.
It's devastating on an individual and personal level, isn't it?
It is and it isn't. I've spoken directly to somebody who was absolutely devastated, and also spoken to somebody who's actually excited by the new situation.
Well, it's kind of like how you have to be these days. I mean, we wouldn't be in Portugal if I hadn't been made redundant.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to be a poster boy for redundancy, because it wasn't an easy thing.
It freed up an opportunity for us.
Okay. Well, and in the end, you have to. That's what you have to do. You have to manage your own sort of sovereignty and responsibility, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, like we worked for one of the largest disability charities in the UK, oldest. And one thing that I know, and I've also worked for a really, really large charity in London, and one thing that lots of people say about the charity sector is they've got lots of bloated staff. Not like they're physically bloated, but the organizations have a bloated, like a bloat of people that you can't get rid of. And they can be seen as places where money comes in and then goes missing. So I can understand why the EU might have a firm response, because
they're afraid.
Because I think they're afraid. I mean,
Aviva makes a really
crazy.
good comment here, and I think it's just such a sign of the times. Aviva, I don't think anything is how it appears.
Exactly.
That's right. Very much like the pandemic. And what media outlet reports objectively? I don't think that's a question mark there. I don't really know what is actually happening, and that's such an interesting viewpoint, because the only thing I guess we can really know what's actually happening in any profound way is what's happening to us in our lives, isn't it? And that's in a way maybe what we're being forced to do.
Absolutely. I mean, during like the COVID narrative times, and right now, I like my client base in the States tends to be split right down the middle. And
that's a thing, isn't it? This division.
And I know there are some people who prefer to work with people from one side or another. But what I notice is I have huge amounts of respect for the points of view of everyone that I work with, and they're all really nice people. I don't really work with people I don't come across anyone actually who is really nasty. I don't think I've ever said that to you. Oh my God. There's someone to put on my block list. People have fear.
Have you got one?
No. Right. But people have a level of fear that comes into their decision making, and that will be based on their childhood experiences and also what they get told by the media, and whether they believe it or not. And I love what Ocean Dwellers put there.
Definitely.
It's really smart.
Let's go back to Natasha. And this is where Portugal has always had its place. Serene, somewhere in the middle of everything, but not making any waves.
It's beautiful.
This is an evolutionary process, and my conviction is that the political dialogue must be the key if we are to have the economic conditions to have good growth rates, both in the United States and in Europe, the PM told upturned microphones. In Portugal, the message from Minister for the Economy, Pedro Reis, was very similar. There is a game between large economic blocks, and as such, Portugal doesn't want to anticipate the moves or the results. And it's not really that. I mean, it's somewhat influential, but not massively influential. So it can take this position, of course. Lisbon stocks started the week trading lower as investors were described as bracing for the US tariffs outcome. But by Tuesday, they were already recovering, perhaps a sign that people are reading into Trump's narrative and understanding much more that it is a form of challenge, not something set in stone. It is this is what we want. If you don't give us a lot of it, we will hit you with tariffs. And I think T-Duck has responded to that. When Trump wants 10, he asks for 1,000. Have you not read The Art of the Deal? I have to admit I haven't, but I definitely get the gist of that right there.
What I get from these moves is, not so much the art of like a deal or a negotiation, but I really see a dad or a granddad. Because like if things were going on at our home, when I was growing up, if there was a trouble and it felt like there were things on the outside of our home that might have been coming in to
or threaten.
Yeah, threatened the equilibrium.
Yes.
Like what a father does often is they kind of
puff out their chest.
They puff out their chest. And
is that what you think he's doing?
They puff out their chest, but they do protect.
Yes.
They'll close the windows, lock the gates. They might
take that, neighbours.
They might sit by the door.
Get the newspaper out.
Well, I mean,
get me a cup of tea, love, because I'm protecting the boundary.
Yeah, I mean that is
the metaphor.
That or they check the boundaries. Like when you buy a new house, what's one of the first things you do when you've got the money to? A lot of people reinforce their fences. And I don't.
My word!
I'm not actually talking politically here. I'm just saying what like human nature often does. We don't build houses. We don't build our homes and leave the doors wide open. And what I see there is really a dad response, which is
dad response.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And that's not me saying I agree with what he's doing or not, but what I see is a dad response kind of made big.
Well, there is the expansionist imperial concern. Now, for anyone in Portugal who has seen the news about Gaza and it being seized as a holiday park.
Yeah.
The thing about Portugal, of course, is we needn't worry about it being seized.
Are they going to send out some pastel de natas?
No. Portugal is already a holiday park, so we can't be seized and be used as well. We've already done that, Donald, in case you're watching this morning. So in Portugal, the message, I think we've done that bit, haven't we? Portugal doesn't want to anticipate the moves or the results. Lisbon stocks started the week. Oh, we've done that bit as well. It is this is what we want. If you don't give us a lot of it, we will hit you with tariffs. There you go. Yeah. So gesturing, posturing, negotiation. So this is the interesting bit then. So what does Mr. Trump want from the EU or the EU? First, to some people anyway. First, the terrible threat. Yes, it is real. Donald Trump was apparently aghast when visiting a European city recently to see no Chevys or Dodges. We haven't got the roads for them, Donald. I mean, lots of people would love to bring their big American cars, but we're not built.
Could you imagine one of those? Could you imagine one of those big?
Why are there no Chevys or Dodges?
Could you imagine
here?
one of those big cars going down like our back streets at the top of our town?
Well, and
they wouldn't even go down them.
Well, look, we've all got our own problems already. Okay, with those young kids on mopeds. We don't want a Chevy next to that.
No, definitely not.
Would have both ends of the sonic spectrum, wouldn't we? We have the moped and an American V8 going. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. Well, fair. I don't want your chicken. Keep your chicken. And your farm products. They take almost nothing. Look, I was at McDonald's yesterday. I do take things.
No, you've taken that brand.
Okay. And we take everything from them. And so you should. European culture, history, why not? Millions of cars. See, I'm pushing back here.
Yeah, like one of the things that I notice is like we only take stuff from each other or buy stuff from each other is if we don't have it in-house. Like, if we were growing our own tomatoes, we wouldn't go and buy tomatoes from the supermarket. Though, actually, I realise we have actually done that. We've grown our own.
It's a lot cheaper. When we were growing our own tomatoes, it cost us about 25 euros per tomato, didn't it?
In time and stuff. Yes. But, what I appreciate about Portugal, and that was, I think, one of the things that didn't help us make our choice, but it kind of confirmed that maybe we'd picked the right place. And that is that, the Portuguese know how to grow things. and they know how to look after their resources quite well. That's my observation of them.
Yeah, right. That's
I
part of
know,
our serenity.
Yeah, and I think if you're quite well resourced, you know what to do, where to get things from in-house.
This doesn't worry you so much, does
Yeah.
it?
Again, it's like you in your shed as the dad.
Oh yeah.
You've got like when
I've got a bit of wood that will do that.
Yes, you've got everything. Like you'll find things. But like when we're in when we were in England, I remember there were times when farmers were up in arms, for instance, because their products weren't able to be sold because our government had made some trade deals that meant the supermarkets needed to take produce from other countries.
And that's why people are upset about this idea of tariffs. But
of course they are. And also that we couldn't fish in our own waters, but had to take fish from Spain. I don't know if that's, I mean, that was
just been
historically
a bit of the old propaganda, might it?
Well, it might have been, but it's those kind of scenarios that get on people's wick. Like if my dad, for instance, needed to get something to maintain his house that he could have done himself,
he would have fished in his own waters.
And so I guess if Portugal is quite resource rich, which I believe it is, I think we're okay. And I would say, like, looking at this, I just think it's time for us to get all of our resources in order.
Wow, Mrs. M. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even going to have time to ask if the astrological portents say so as well.
The astrology is like...
I am never going to finish this article,
I don't say this. It's like nothing you've ever seen, because that just sounds like it's come from the Donald Trump
book of polemic rhetoric. Yes.
But across the board,
nothing
with astrology,
it's like nothing. Nothing you've ever seen. No, we do the best nothing you've ever seen.
With the next 2 years, we've got astrological things going on that we've never ever seen before in our recorded history.
Oh my goodness!
No, I'm not kidding. Like, this isn't like some kind of I'm
You're not trying to. It's just not clickbait, because if it was, I'd have said it a lot earlier on.
It really isn't.
In the show,
it really isn't. And what happened at the time of COVID hadn't happened astrologically for about 3,500 years. But we are going way beyond that. We are coming into a completely new time.
Well,
and the only response is to not expect what we need and just to be prepared to act in the moment. We are going to be
yes, and on on a local level, right? Because that is going back to what Aviva said. This is the time, isn't it? If you don't know what's going on because you can't trust it, or actually because you can't actually know what's going on beyond your immediate senses, can you? You can only be told, and if that's been hijacked by, which we can fairly say it has, right, by other people's agendas,
think so, yeah.
Either benignly or very actively and malevolently. It does bring us closer to home, doesn't it, to check in our own experience and be in our own communities. Meanwhile, Dougie Lennon is here. All he is saying is give Trump. Now, Dougie is feeling quite emboldened.
He is, isn't he?
He is, isn't he? The cut of his jib on social media at the moment is quite notable.
I don't believe that.
He's not afraid to eat a bit of chlorine-washed chicken.
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Which, if I was to go to a restaurant, Doug, this is the man who hates French food. Preferring it would appear chlorine-washed chicken. Good evening, waiter. What would you recommend? What would you recommend?
Give me some of that chlorine-washed chicken.
May I recommend, sir, to use a chlorine-washed chicken? It's very good. Okay, it has barely detectable levels of chlorine. If you've been in the swimming pool, you'll not even notice. Right, okay, my best Peter Sellers there.
That was good.
Okay, can I go back to the
Yes,
article?
absolutely. I won't stop you.
Right, okay, so terrible threat. Yes, it's real. There aren't any Chevys or Dodges pulling up at the traffic lights. They don't take our cars. They don't. Nothing. Millions of cars. Tremendous amounts of food and farm products. We have the best. And then the ultimate insult that Europe is an atrocity that has treated America terribly. I have not done that. Donald Trump has not come up, not at the point of writing this text anyway. And that's a very clever piece of journalism, because by the time you've written an article, Donald Trump might have done several things. From Once Upon a Time to by the time you get to They Lived Happily Ever After, Donald might have issued several more executive orders and changed his mind 27 times.
Absolutely,
very good.
yeah.
Nice one. With a timeline for imposing tariffs on the EU, but it's going to be pretty soon. he told a journalist this week, which suggests that once he has finished getting his way with Canada, Mexico, South Africa, yes, he's not happy. That's Elon's influence, though, isn't it? That the country's gratuitous
I have
land
no
grabbing.
idea if it is Elon's. I think
he's got South African roots.
no. I don't know if that is because of Elon.
Okay, and possibly China.
That's, what the media's
China
spinning.
will be setting his sights on the block.
Right.
Come, we're ready for you, darling. What will Mr. Trump want from Europe in order not to slap tariffs on its products? Almost certainly, he will want to import more LPG, liquid petroleum gas. He may want to import chlorinated chicken nugget, sacre bleu, and to reduce cooperation with China, possibly even to import American cars. The European car industry is over, and we spoke to Colin about that. The reality, and I'm not sure about the prognosis for American cars, quite honestly, the reality that no one is venturing what Mr. Trump wants, because the terrible truth is that he appears too capricious and unpredictable. That does go against him,
unpredictable to even try to predict.
Yeah, but he is first and foremost a businessman, and in that he is exceptionally predictable. So it should not take too much intelligence to work out what kind of cooperation will be suggested. Is it the kind of question very possibly answerable by ChatGPT?
I wonder what ChatGPT says about it.
I wonder. We could do that live. Maybe European leaders are already at their keyboards. Well done, Natasha. Once they feel they have the answers, it would simply be a question of negotiating and sealing a deal. Portugal, per se, will have very little to do with this process, as the country is not considered any kind of big cheese. We've got big cheese, but we're not a big cheese within the EU bloc. But its natural serenity may keep this country at least from the panicky headlines of so many others. Yes. Aren't we lucky to live here?
Yeah. I guess if you don't know what's going to happen, you could choose to preemptively get upset, or
there's a lot of that about, isn't
or
there?
Just remain calm until you know whether you need to get upset or
Calma, tranquilo, as our Portuguese host would say. Tariffs of the past. Well, during the greatest hits now, during his first term, Mr. Trump imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum. I've translated that, especially for our American audience, from the EU, which retaliated with trade levies on a number of items, including Harley-Davidson motorbikes, bourbon, denim, and orange juice. You see, there's the American way right there in one sentence.
Exactly. That's not going to affect us.
You don't think so?
Nope.
But what if I have a midlife crisis and I want all of those every day?
Well, orange juice is no problem.
Spoiling my midlife crisis. What about my Harley Davidson?
Well,
you're visualizing me drinking orange juice and bourbon, clad in denim on a Harley Davidson, and you're thinking, I quite like the smell of that.
I'm relieved. That would be a relief to me. I don't want you gadding around on motorbikes drunk on orange juice.
Drunk on orange juice, high on life,
high on the like syrupy, sugary.
It's the bourbon you need to worry about. None of these would affect Portuguese consumers drastically. No. Well, if we all have a midlife crisis at the same time, I think Natasha's being a bit cavalier about that. But the US market represents almost 7%. This is interesting. Almost 7% of Portuguese exports, mainly comprising food and drink. John Arago is going to help with this. So it is extremely important, and Portugal will just be quietly hoping that the EU holds its nerve when Mr. Trump focuses on what he wants from Europe, and that the whole tariff question takes on far less frightening proportions.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And thank you, Natasha Don. That's in the Portugal Resident. Let's see what comments
That's a very sort of thoughtfully written piece, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. I do like the cut of her jib. Almost all of the vegetables in Dubai, I think that is, unless Dubia is another place, are washed in chlorinated water. Of course, I'm emboldened on social media. I'm now less likely to face a ban.
Well, I think
he's going to face personal bans, not corporate ones. It just changes, Doug. You won't see Chevys here because they're crap. Right. Nobody knows what's going on under the fog of war. It's true. It's absolutely true, isn't it?
None of us know.
All right. You see, that's why he doesn't like French food. He's much preferred the burger. All this stuff about evil American food is nonsense. Left-wing disgruntlement, pure and simple. Go on.
I mean, I've never been to America, so I can't talk about the food.
I have. I loved it.
However, they have much more relaxed laws about additives and things like that.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of things they put in American
food. A lot of American friends here
here
much prefer the food quality here in Portugal, right?
Yeah.
But albeit the lack of good Mexican food. Took the failed businessman 24 hours to reverse tariffs and trust less time than less. Morning, Pete. How are you this morning? As I always say, Thank goodness my Tesla is made by efficient and well-organized Chinese rather than those sloppy, lazy. Oh my! Oh!
Let me just say that's not that's not a view that you believe about across the board about Americans, is it? Given
because that would sound a little bit racist.
We have lots of American friends who I don't consider to be like that.
One thing everyone can agree on is that Trump is about disrupting the status quo, says Wellness, whereas most governments seem to be more about yes. Yeah, and why would they want to do that? It's a good point, isn't it?
Really,
who benefits?
Really good point.
Who benefits? And that's what we'll see over time, isn't it? Who will benefit? And you can only see over time who's going to benefit. I mean, I think we can safely say from our experience of recent years, when politicians are preserving the status quo, they're not doing it for our benefit.
Yeah, I would nod along with that.
Yep, okay. I thought you might. Portugal already imposes huge tariffs on anything imported. What? Another taxation opportunity in Portugal, hence why some things cost so much. Yeah. We all know if we buy glasses, yes, electronics or anything. It's true, isn't it? Very expensive for that sort of thing. So we're already used to it.
We're already used to getting things from Amazon, aren't we?
Portuguese food is not mass produced because Portugal does not have 300 million mouths to feed, says Dougie. Yeah, we got that. Not months to feed, but mouths to feed. We got that. Nakaro Dios. Simply says Mr. S. Well, Mrs. M, we're a minute past. Morning, Jackie. Lovely to see you here this morning. And Mel, yes, and many other things. Portugal imposes huge impossible seal on many products. It does. It does. So we are quite used to it. We've been conditioned. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's healthy to be cynical with politicians. There are good ones. I'm sorry, James. You're right. It's the people on the far right who benefit from you not being hopeful. Oh, just as we're trying to leave. He chucks that in. Right. That's why we shop at Costco in Spain. That's a globalist move right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm hearing here is that people who are already living in Portugal already know where to get their best prices from and
it's
already
human
know
ingenuity.
and know that there's always going to be something that works, something that doesn't.
It's the dad effect you mentioned, isn't it? Dad effect is a very interesting
but I also
thing.
recognize I think what's going on is we've got like family, like really like distilled versions of family dynamics blown up because there's also teenage energy.
Yeah.
You know, so you could say that the EU, the United Press, like, because the press does seem to go in step with each other right across the board.
Yeah.
All different world governments and stuff are being like the dad.
Yeah.
And Trump is like being the teenager and saying, well, why? Why? And he's kind of disrupting the power of the establishment. So, you know, there's so many different things that take me back to childhood.
Really? Is it giving a youthful flush?
Well,
would you say?
You know, like, for instance, like when I was 18 and I buggered off, you know, I was meant to go to university and then at the last minute said, no, I'm going to take this little backpack and bugger off to France. I don't know where I'm going, what I'm going to do, but it's all going to be okay. Obviously,
are you likening that to a Trump political move?
No, what I'm saying is sometimes we do need to break free to be able to see
I can hear
what
music
we're about.
all the time you're talking.
Like sometimes we need to break free of the grasp of what our reality is to be able to see what exists the other side. If I'd gone straight to university and done exactly what my parents wanted me to do, I would never have, you know, I wouldn't have lived the kind of life that I've lived, and I have no regrets at all. You know, what Trump is offering everybody is a completely new perspective, and that perspective might turn out to be really good.
Here's the other thing.
And it might turn out to be really
here's the thing as well.
But we've not challenged ourselves like this.
No, but can I put this into the conversation before we go? And thanks everybody for getting involved and having a bit of a giggle. I know there are some serious concerns. Simple-minded in English. Oh, now I'm triggered. I think no. What was that comment I just put on? Yes, no, not that one. There was another one from James. Good to have you here this morning.
I don't know.
Oh, the Chevy, a fridge with wheels on it. Not a big fan of the Chevy, so you can keep those. I'm sure. No, but what I wanted to say is, you could see him as causal, and these are the sorts of things which, if I may crowbar in a plug for our midday show, we have a moment with the Munsons where we do come into the moment here in our local reality, our lives such as they are, over which we have the most influence, right? We can influence our state. There's not a lot we can do about all this incoming data that gets messed about with by other people's opinions and so on. And there's, you know, that can be quite upsetting and difficult, as we've discovered in these last a few decades or centuries, maybe. But he might be a symptom of what's going on. You know, you're looking at the grander astrological moves, aren't you, and influences. And Trump might not be causal as much as, you know, if he implements a policy, yes, that's causal. That will have an effect on the collective, won't it? On society in the political realm. But if you also see him from the point of view of how he might be a boil on the skin of society and humanity, as well as like an outburst of something that is bubbled up because of other influences that are afoot, or in the grand arc of society trying to find homeostasis and balance, because we haven't experienced much balance, have we, in recent times? Or the serenity that Portugal that we're talking about, you know, from before. So he might be as much, what I'm saying is, he might be as much symptomatic as he is causal, and that might bring relief to see that all this craziness that seems to be bubbling up and bursting around the world is a symptom of something underlying that we might pay more attention to.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Oh, was that it?
Well, I don't know if you want me to, like,
last word to you. Last word to you as my esteemed guest and co-host on The Moment with the Munsons at midday Portuguese time on New Reality TV. Everybody, go on, Mrs. M.
Well, today we've got a really interesting woman from America joining us, called Amy Doherty.
Yes,
who has a site called Irishgenics or something like that.
Yes.
Well, I better get it right before 12. She studies iridology. And is able to talk about your ancestral code.
And she can literally say, "Look into my eyes," couldn't she?
Yeah, she can.
She can. But
yeah, so we're going to be talking to her about that, and
we're having a moment to breathe out. Yes. So if you ever feel stressed and you need a little bit of a nice space, a safe space to be free and easy and breathe, join us The Moment with the Munsons.
And we've got some great people coming.
We have amazing
We've got
people.
Sadhu Dar, who's looking at
another song. Sadhu Di, Sadhu Da, Sadhu Di.
He's currently living in Thailand. He's moving around. He's watching lots of different tribes and sort of reflecting on tribal conditions.
He's an extraordinary fellow, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's
Are we talking to him on Monday?
Yes, we are.
Okay, it'd be nice to see a few of you over there on New Reality TV. In the meantime, if it's all getting too much and you want some of that Portuguese, not just the serenity, but the joviality, clown alert. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of March.
Where is that?
That's Lulay. That's Lulay, where they'll be weaving in some really sharp political insight and fun and mischief alongside the revelry there. A carnival, não seca, is that? I don't know what that. Oh, okay, it's a carnival, not a drought. Because they'll be making political points about that. And one more time, I do love. I don't get tired of this. Marcelo shaking the hand of Donald
that was
Trump.
incredible.
If you come back, Donnie,
that was
Battle of the Dads, wasn't it?
That was yes, it was.
Battle
it was like
of the
Battle
Dads.
of the Granddads. Actually.
Yes, come on, Granddad.
It was a granddad handshake, wasn't it?
It really was.
It was hilarious.
Really was. He pulled him close, didn't he?
That is what they do.
Listen out for the sharp intake of breath, and he's not gonna like that in the background. Mrs. M, thank you very much. Martin Harris, thank you very much. See you tonight, everybody, with Philomena. We'll be talking about greetings and going a little bit further into Portuguese language and culture with the Philomena this evening. So see you then, perhaps, and the Town Hall Dream Team session at 9.
It's Philomena
Thursday. Absolutely. Okay. Donnie and Marcelo battling out here, the Alpha Granddads. Go for it. Have a great day, everybody.
Mr. President, any